Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
Psalm 27. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, came upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. He shall set me up upon a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me, and answer me. When thou saidst, seek ye my face. My heart said unto thee, thy face, Lord, will I seek. Hide not thy face far from me. Put not thy servant away in anger. Thou hast been my help. Leave me not, neither forsake me, O God of my salvation. When my father and my mother forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. Teach me thy way, O Lord, and lead me in a plain path because of mine enemies. Deliver me not over unto the will of mine enemies, for false witnesses are risen up against me, and such as breathe out cruelty. I had fainted, unless I had believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait on the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord.
Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah.
All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of GMS who rule well, teach well, being great examples to his younger brothers, and peace and blessings and salutation to the hopeful elect out there pushing his word in truth and in sincerity across the four winds in the name of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shah. Pushing to get up out of here. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the believers, the listeners whom have came back to the obedience of the scriptures through faith in Yahweh Bashem Al Shai. All right, now we're going to continue on. All right, in the book of 1 Samuel. All right, we've made it to the 13th chapter. All right, as we see, in chapter 12, Samuel is pretty much handing over Israel, to the authority of King Saul. All right, which, the Lord called out, Saul, to be king over Israel, at their request. Okay. And Samuel, all right, is now, playing the back, more so of a spiritual advisor, okay, for King Saul. Now, in the spirit, he still outranks Saul, and Saul, is under, his order, because Saul, Samuel, all right, is still, the mediator. Okay. So when you go into this chapter, what we're going to see, is, the leadership flaws begin to show, okay, within, King Saul. All right. And the Lord, will begin to reject, King Saul in this chapter. All right. Now, when you read 1 Samuel 13:1, it says Saul was 30 years old when he became king, and he reigned for 2 years. Saul selected 3,000 special troops from the army of Israel and sent the rest of the men home. He took 2,000 of the chosen men with him to Michmash and the hill country of Bethel. The other 1,000 went with Saul's son Jonathan to Gibeah in the land of Benjamin. Soon after this, Jonathan attacked and defeated the garrisons of Philistine at Geba. The news spread quickly among the Philistines, so Saul blew the ram's horn throughout the land, saying, Hebrews, hear this, rise up and revolt. all Israel heard the news that Saul had destroyed the Philistine garrison at Gibeah, and there the Philistines now hated the Israelites more than ever. So the entire Israelite army was summoned to join Saul at Gilgal. The Philistines mustered a mighty army of 3,000 chariots, 3,000 chariots, 6,000 charioteers, and as many warriors as the grains of the sand of the seashore. They camped at Michmash, east of Beth-aven. So now you're seeing this rivalry, that we have, with the Philistines. Remember, the Philistines are the descendants of Mizraim, okay, which were the Egyptians. Okay, so we have plenty of history, all right, dealing with the Philistines, all right, and you see the rivalry, that was between, especially, the Southern Kingdom and the Philistines. But so when you read into it now, the Philistines, have been defeated by Jonathan, and the troops, that was given unto Jonathan. So now the Philistines are pissed, so now their mindset is to go all out against the Israelites. Okay, it says some of them crossed the Jordan River and escaped into the land of Gad and Gilead. Meanwhile, Saul stayed at Gilgal, and his men were trembling with fear. Saul waited there 7 days for Samuel, as Samuel had instructed. Now, this is the point. We're going to see the flaws, all right, that's in King Saul and his leadership, And it says Saul waited there 7 days for Samuel, as Samuel had instructed him earlier, but Samuel still didn't come. Saul realized that his troops were rapidly slipping away. Okay, so people had started to fall back. They had started to lose the faith, and you have to understand, they had to see Saul getting antsy, because Samuel didn't show, when Saul thought he should. And you had to believe, that his troops seen him getting antsy. Okay, and it says, so he demanded, bring me the burnt offering and the peace offerings. And Saul sacrificed the burnt offering himself, which is completely off. Okay, because first Samuel, told him to wait, and Samuel was going to offer the sacrifice. Samuel was the priest, and Samuel was the mediator. Okay, you see that? And then you had a Saul, which is a Benjaminite, which had nothing to do with offering the sacrifice, man. It wasn't his office. It wasn't of his tribe. So he was just completely off, impulsive, impatient, okay, willful. Okay, so now we're seeing, the makings, all right, of poor leadership, traits within Saul. It said, just as Saul was finishing with the burnt offering, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet him and welcome him, but Samuel said, what is this you have done? Saul replied, I saw my men scattering from me, and you didn't arrive when you said you would, and the Philistines are at Michmash ready for battle. So this we seen, King Saul, all right, disobey orders and lose patience. His faith was low. Okay, and he pretty much, let his men determine how he should move instead of him determining how his men should move. Okay, so now we're seeing, let's say those flaws, being shown within King Saul, and we're gonna get some precepts. All right, when you get here, you get this in Zephaniah 3:8, because we're given certain commands and instructions. Okay, Zephaniah 3:8, it says, therefore wait ye upon me, said the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Al-Shai, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Okay, so here it is. The Lord has this thing mapped out. All we have to do is follow instructions, man. We're not here to get militant or get impulsive or get antsy because the end ain't coming how we want. All right, the results not coming when we want the results. No, we have to be patient, man. We have to show patience. We have to be patient, man. All right, suffer the situation until the Lord intervene. Okay, and the Bible is full of scriptures about the Lord intervening, and we seeing it happening now. Okay, real time. Okay, and it's times that, hey, we want the end yesterday, man. We want the collapse of the society yesterday, man. But it's in the timing of the Lord, and we have to follow instructions until, all right, the time determined, man, the time appointed. Okay, and though they tarry, they will not tarry. See, he looked at Samuel as if Samuel was tarrying, man, and he started to do his own thing. All right, let's get this in Habakkuk 2:3. Said, for the vision is yet for an appointed time. Okay, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not tarry. Patience, man. You know, we have to be patient, and while we're waiting, there's plenty of things to work on. There's plenty of things to grow in as we're waiting. Okay, on the Lord to end this thing, man. On the Lord to intervene and judge Esau, Edom, to judge the earth, man. Okay, to vindicate His elect. You see, so even though it seems like things tarry, all right, we still have to wait. That doesn't give us the green light, you know, to start doing, you know, side missions, man. As you see Jake get caught up in these side missions and what that has led them to, man. Okay, so we're seeing, all right, King Saul, he lost patience, man, and he let his men determine how he should move. Because even you go here, let's get an example of good leadership. When you go to, all right, the book of First Maccabees, the 4th chapter, under Judas. Okay. All right. This is I read this. First Maccabees 4:1. It says, then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen, all right, and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. This is, you know, Judas Maccabees and, you know, the armies of Israel then, you know, going against, all right, the Greeks, all right, the Edomites. And the men of the fortress were his guides. And it says, now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he, all right, might smite the king's army which were at this is Emias. All right, it says, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. In the mean season, Gorgias by night, all right, Gorgias, it's like it. In the mean season came Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas, and when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains and said, these fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas showed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed around about with horsemen, and there were experts of war. So Judas and his men didn't even have weapons. All right, and they're going against these trained, expert military men with the best, you know, weaponry of their day. Okay, well, listen to the mindset of Judas, of a good leader. Okay, it says, then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day, so that all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel. Okay, so Judas immediately began to hype his men up, you know, with the power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, to remind them of, look, remember, our forefathers have been in worse position than this. You know, the Lord can deliver us. Okay, he was pretty much igniting, all right, the spirit of his men through Yahweh Bashim Yahushua, through the spirit of the Lord, man. You know, so he was telling his men to have faith, like, we good. You know, don't care how many men they got and what type of, you know, weaponry they have, man. We got the Lord. Okay, so as a good leader, you know, Judas, you know, was putting, okay, his people, his men in the spirit of faith, man, in the spirit of patience, man. Okay, in the spirit of being courageous in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua. Saul didn't do that. He got impulsive, got disobedient, showed, little faith, impatient. Okay. Well, nah, man, we're not to be that way. We have to have patience in our power, man. Okay. Let's go from here. What it says in because we coming to the time we finna be in the trenches, man. We finna be in some hell of a predicaments, man. As you see, they're trying to make, laws and statutes concerning what they call street preaching. We finna, Esau finna push their propaganda, man. We finna be tried. Okay. We gonna be in some, we finna be against all odds, man. And you look at it in the flesh, but in the spirits, the odds in our favor, man. Okay. When you go here, it says, my son, if thou, this is Sirach 2:1, my son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation, which is a trial. All right. And Saul was tried and he failed. Okay. He didn't prepare his spirit for that trial. He got impatient. He had faith. He lacked faith. Okay. It says, set thy heart aright, which is thy mind, and constantly endure, and make no haste in time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end. Okay. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou may be increased at thy last end, man. So King Saul, he wasn't a visionary. He dealt with in the moment. He reacted based on the moment. He couldn't see beyond their current circumstance, man. Like Judas, he seen it. That account with Judas, he seen it. Like, nah, we good. He looked beyond, all right, the moment and understood that, nah, we good. Okay. We got the Lord with us. We gonna be straight. All right. Now, reading on, and it says, jump down to verse 10 and say, look at the generation of old and see, did ever any trust in the Lord and was confounded? And see, this is why the scriptures say, Romans 15:4, things were written aforetime are written for our learning. That we, through patience and hope of the scriptures, all right, might have hope, man. Through patience and faith in the scriptures might have hope. So as we go into these accounts, as we went into Eleazar yesterday, and we go into these accounts, man, and we see, the Lord, how he deals with our people that believed in him. Our forefathers, even some of our foremothers, how the Lord will intervene, all right, in the situation. As our forefathers, had patience, man, they believe. It's countless accounts, okay, that we can draw from. All right. And that's what Judas did. He went back to the time of Egypt. They was in a situation and he went into the history, and he drew some faith from that, man, for him and his men. And it says, or did any abide in his fear and was forsaken, or whom did he ever despise that called upon him? For the Lord is full of compassion and mercy, long suffering and very pitiful, and forgiveth sins and saveth in time of affliction. Woe be to the faithful hearts and faint hands, and the sinner that goeth two ways, man. And we seen, King Saul be very indecisive. He went two ways. He was waiting on Samuel for a period, and then he went another way. Okay, he had a fearful mind. All right, he said, woe unto him that is faint-hearted, for he believeth not, neither shall he not be defended. Woe unto you that have lost patience, and what will you do when the Lord shall visit you, man? And we can't lose patience, man. We can't become faint-hearted, man, and impulsive in these times, man, because we coming in the clutch. Okay, so let's get one more. You see, our mind got to be made up, man. Okay, that we have to be willing to even, see, King Saul should have been ready to die, for being obedient. Okay, we have to be ready to die for our obedience, man. Scribe unto the truth to death, and the Lord shall fight for thee. Sirach 4:28. That should be our mindset, man. We're gonna scribe, all right, for the truth unto death, man. Because one thing about it, as Eleazar, he was put to death. All right, but he has a righteous legacy, man, that's spoken of to this day. You know, for what he did, how he went out, man. You know, so we'd rather die with honor, you know, than try to live and scramble to live, okay, and be a disgrace, man. Okay. So let's go here. You know, we really gotta have that death before dishonor mindset, man. You know. Let's go here to the book of Lamentations, chapter 3, verse 24. It said, "The Lord is my portion, saith my soul, therefore will I hope in him. The Lord, Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, is good unto them that wait for him, to the soul that seeketh him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai," man. So it's going to be a beautiful thing for those who wait on the Lord's salvation, man. Not to get impulsive in these times, because the devil, you know, the Lord gonna put the spirit on him to push chaos, you know, to bring order, okay? And in that chaos, man, we can't bend the knee, you know, to that pseudo salvation, which is going to be the sea hip. Okay, we gotta wait upon the Lord, man. You know, even in the face of death, even if death is the only option, hey, we're gonna wait still, because even in death, we're still waiting on Yahushua, man, to be resurrected, you know. So it's all about having patience in our power, man, you know, in tribulation. You see, I'm saying Saul didn't do that. Okay, so so let's go here. 1 Samuel, all right, 13:10 said, "Just as Saul was finishing with the burnt offering, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet him and welcome him, but Samuel said, 'What is this you have done?' Saul replied, 'My men scattering from me, and you didn't arrive,' beginning to immediately deflect, no accountability, immediately started to reflect, deflect, okay, and shift, what they call blame shifting, okay." I think you can look that. Let me look that up real quick. They call blame shifting. Blame shifting. Let me see. Goddamn, let's give a simple definition, man. All right, I just get this here. It says blame shifting is when someone skirts responsibility for their actions. More specifically, that person places the responsibilities on someone else's shoulders. Okay, so we immediately see, all right, King Saul began to blame shift. Okay. And it says, "But Samuel said, 'What is this you have done?'" Back in 1 Samuel 13:11 in the NLT. Saul replied, "I saw my men scattering from me, and you didn't arrive when you said you would, and the Philistines are at Michmash ready for battle. So I said, the Philistines are ready to march against us at Gilgal, and I haven't even asked you, all right, and I haven't even asked for the Lord's help. So I felt compelled to offer the burnt offering myself before you came, being presumptuous and willful." Okay, the scriptures say a child not broken becomes willful. Okay, and we see a lot of willful men in Israel doing exactly what the hell they want to do, doing things they self. Okay, and we see where it has led to. Okay, and it's going to continue to get worse. All right. It says, "How foolish," Samuel exclaimed, "you have not kept the command of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai, your power, gave you. Had you kept it, the Lord would have established your kingdom over Israel forever. But now your kingdom must end, for the Lord has sought out a man after his own heart." So now the Lord has rejected Saul. And what we're going to see is Saul just dwindle away. Okay, and the man that's chosen after his own heart will be, all right, King David. So now we're seeing Saul, he's done. Okay, like what he did, the Lord done with him. So now we're going to see Saul, all right, King Saul beginning to dwindle away. It said the Lord Yahweh Shemel Shai has already appointed him to be the leader of his people because ye have not kept the Lord's command. It was always set up, all right, for King David, anyway. Okay. And, Saul was an example of what not to be, was an example of poor leadership. All right. And King David is going to be an example, of, how the Lord, wants, his rulers. And Yahweh Shai, all right, is the perfected example of how the Lord wants his rulers. Because King David still had flaw, all right, but his intent in his mind, all right, was always towards the Lord, man, And it says Samuel then left Gilgal and went on his way, but the rest of the troops went to Saul to meet the army. They went up from Gilgal to Gilboa in the land of Benjamin. When Saul counted the men who were still with him, he found only 600 were left. Saul and Jonathan and the troops, all right, and the troops with them were staying at Geba in the land of Benjamin. The Philistines set up the camp at Michmash. 3 raiding parties soon left the camp of the Philistines. One went north toward Ophrah in the land of Shaul. Another went west to Beth Horon, and the third moved toward the border above the valley of Zembian near the wilderness. There were no blacksmiths in the land of Israel in those days. The Philistines wouldn't allow them for fear they would make swords and spears for the Hebrews. So whenever the Israelites needed to sharpen their plow, picks, all right, axes, or sickles, they had to take to them a Philistine blacksmith. The charges were as follows: 1/4 ounce of silver, all right, for sharpening a plowshare, and 1/8 of an ounce for sharpening an axe, sickle, or ox guard. And it says, so on that day of battle, none of the people in Israel had sword or spear except for Saul and Jonathan. The pass of Michmash had meanwhile been secured by the contingent of the Philistine army. So now we're seeing, Israel in a jam. They don't have no weapons, they don't have no blacksmith. Okay. And you're going to see, traits of good leadership in the next chapter, dealing with, Jonathan, the son of Saul, which we believe he's of the elect, pretty much King David's, best friend, so now you're going to see Jonathan, all right, come on the scene, So that was the point, just wanted to get into that, dealing with chapter 13. So Lord we'll just keep it going, on to, the rest of the book of 1 Samuel. Lord will you brothers and you sisters edified. Till next time I say Shalom. Kwame Yashala, Abba, soon Shalom.